Shalom and welcome back to Israel with Aline. We are living through very sad days. On Saturday, October 7th, Israel was attacked in a cruel and inhuman way by the terrorist group Hamas. And our hearts ache for all the innocent victims of this conflict, especially the children. But today we're going to talk about how this conflict started. Let's understand the history of the people of Israel and the Palestinian people from biblical times to the present day. Well, let's get started. Let's go back more than 3,000 years when the 12 tribes of Israel lived in this region and came together to form what we call the United Kingdom of Israel, where famous kings reigned like Saul, David, and Solomon. And in the following centuries, there were different Jewish kingdoms here in the region. The kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, the Hasmonean kingdom, which were interrupted by different periods of invasions and foreign rule, like the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Greeks. But the history of the people of Israel begins to change with the Roman invasion in the year 63 before. The Romans begin to oppress the people of Israel, which leads to the great Jewish rebellion, which ends with the Roman victory. The destruction of Israel, the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, and also the exile of part of the people. And the situation for the people of Israel gets even worse starting from the year 130 AD, when the Roman Emperor Hadrian launches a major anti-Jewish campaign here in the region. He builds over the ruins of the Temple of Jerusalem a pagan temple in honor of Jupiter. He changes the name of the city of Jerusalem to Aelia Capitolina, and he changes the name of the entire region from the province of Judea to province. Syria Palestina è. But why exactly this name? First, because the province expands and includes Syria and Palestine. He names it in honor of the Philistine people. Listen closely to this name. Plea, Philistim, Palestine, Palestine. They are different pronunciations of the same name. So, in practice, he will call the region the Syrian Philistine province. It's important to point out that the Philistine people had already disappeared by that time. But who were the Philistines? The Philistines were a pagan people of European origin who arrived in this region around 3,200 years ago. And they lived here in the region for many centuries, mainly in the coastal area, until they were expelled by the Assyrians and Babylonians. The current Palestinians are not descendants of the Philistines. In a little while, we will talk about the historical and biblical origin of the Palestinian people. But let's go back to Emperor Hadrian. What happens after this great anti-Jewish campaign? Another rebellion of the people of Israel begins, the Bar Kokhba rebellion, which ends once again with a Roman victory. Hundreds of thousands of Jews will be killed and many others expelled and exiled. And then the Jews become the minority in the land of Israel. I mean, there have been Jews living in Israel continuously for more than 3,000 years. But starting from the year 136 AD, the Jews become the minority in Israel. And most of the people then live in exile. After the Romans, the region is controlled by the Byzantine Empire. And in 638 AD, the first Arab conquest of the region takes place. The Arab Muslim Empire, originating from the Arabian Peninsula. They conquer the entire region and create a great caliphate. But who are the Arabs? Biblically speaking, they are descendants of Ishmael, who is the son of Abraham with the slave Hagar. In the Bible, they are also called Ishmaelites. And this Arab immigration, which begins in the 7th century with the Muslim conquest, continues in the following centuries. So, did the Arabs who lived in Palestine adopt the name of the region? That means that the Arabs who lived in Palestine, the Palestinian Arabs, adopted the name and today are simply known as Palestinians. In other words, Palestinians are Arabs. That means they are a Semitic people from this region and not Europeans like the Philistines were. In the following centuries, the region kept changing hands between different empires, and the vast majority of them forbade Jewish immigration back to the region. The people of Israel prayed and dreamed, dreaming of returning to their land. But immigration was extremely restricted. Yes, there was immigration, but it was very limited due to all the restrictions. Meanwhile, Jews in many parts of the world suffered persecution and killings. And now we arrive at the year 1917, when England takes control of the region. During this period, both Arabs and Jews wanted their independence and wanted the British to leave here. It was every man for himself and everyone against England. In 1921, England divided the British Mandate of Palestine into two regions, and 77%, which is all the area we see here on the right side of the map, was given to the Arabs, more specifically to a Hashemite Arab government. And in 1946, this region gained full independence and became what is now called Jordan. And from the rest of the territory, they decided to withdraw in 1947. But they handed over the decision of what should be done here to the United Nations. The United Nations sends observers, and they will create what is called the 1947 Partition Plan, where an Arab state and a Jewish state would be created, and Jerusalem and its surroundings would be under the control of the United Nations itself. As we can see on the map, the green part is Israel, the yellow part is Palestine, and the white part is the International United Nations area. This plan was put to a vote at the United Nations General Assembly on November 29, 1947. And with the help of the Brazilian Oswaldo Aranha, the plan was approved with more than 2/3 of the votes. The Jewish leadership accepts the United Nations resolution and declares the independence of the State of Israel. However, the Palestinian Arab leadership and all the neighboring Arab countries do not accept the United Nations resolution and declare war against the State of Israel. This war is called the Israeli War of Independence, and it will end with a victory for Israel. As we can see on the map, Israel adds territory such as West Jerusalem, and most of the territory intended for the Palestinian Arabs is conquered by Jordan and Egypt. In 1967, once again, Arab countries come together to attack Israel simultaneously. And once again, Israel comes out victorious. But this time, not only does Israel win the war, it wins in just 6 days and more than triples its territory, conquering the Golan Heights, East Jerusalem, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and the entire Sinai Peninsula. Truly an extraordinary victory for the Israeli army, but unfortunately the wars continue. And in 1973, Arab countries launched a surprise attack against Israel. in what we know today as the Yom Kippur War. And once again, Israel will come out victorious. In the following years, Israel created a plan called Land for Peace, where Israel would give land to the Arabs in exchange for peace. And the first country to accept this agreement was Egypt in 1979, when Israel returned the entire Sinai Peninsula in exchange for peace. However, Egypt did not agree to take back the Gaza Strip, and it remained under Israel's control for a few more years. The next agreement signed was in 1993 between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, the Palestine Liberation Organization. This is what we know as the Oslo Accords, where Israel handed over part of the West Bank and most of the Gaza Strip. And then the Palestinian Authority was created, which is the government that was supposed to govern these regions. That means it's a self-administered region with its own taxes, police, healthcare system, education, and other things. And the negotiations were supposed to continue in the following years until it would be possible for Palestine to become independent and for the Palestinian state to be created. However, what happened is that the negotiations were interrupted and Palestinian independence was never declared. But things changed once again in 2005 when Israel decided to make a unilateral withdrawal from Gaza. This means that Israel removed all Jews and Israelis from inside the Gaza Strip, both civilians and military personnel, and handed over the entire Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority with the goal of advancing the peace process. However, this had the opposite effect because in 2007, the terrorist group Hamas carried out a coup d'etat inside the Gaza Strip and forcibly took power from the Palestinian Authority. Hamas killed more than 160 Palestinians and injured over 500, and hundreds fled to the West Bank. And this is very important for us to understand the current war because in practice, there are nowadays two Palestines. One of them is the Gaza Strip, this small territory that borders Israel and also Egypt. It has been 100% Palestinian since 2005 when Israel withdrew, and the one who controls it nowadays is the terrorist group Hamas. And the other Palestinian territory is located within the West Bank. It's what we call Zone A and B, and it's controlled by the Palestinian Authority and the Fatah party. And within this territory, it's also forbidden for Israeli Jews to live. Jews can live in the West Bank, but only in Zone C, which is currently under Israeli control. Israel and the Palestinian Authority have diplomatic agreements, economic, civil, and military cooperation, and the Palestinian Authority is not involved in the current war between Hamas and Israel. On the contrary, we saw this week that Mahmoud Abbas, also known as Abu Mazen, who is the president of the Palestinian Authority, he clearly stated that the terrorist acts of Hamas do not represent the Palestinian population. And that's why, now that we are going to talk about the current war, however, we're going to talk about the Gaza Strip, not the West Bank. On October 7th, Hamas carried out a major terrorist attack against Israel, killing more than 1,300 people, the vast majority of them civilians. They killed entire families, beheaded children and babies, raped women, burned people alive, and kidnapped around 200 people, including both Israelis and foreigners. It's impossible to describe the horror and barbarity committed by the terrorists. I won't go into more details because I'm starting my 9th month of pregnancy. I'm not able to talk about this, to get through this subject. And I've also had videos censored here on YouTube last week. But we know that this was the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. And that's why Israel declared war against the Hamas terrorists. See, this war is not against the Palestinians, not against the Gaza Strip, much less against the Palestinian Authority. This war is against terrorism and against Hamas. They were the ones who carried out a coup in the Gaza Strip and oppressed the Palestinian people, used Palestinians as human shields, and kill anyone who is against their radical ideology. They steal humanitarian aid from the innocent population and use the money and resources they receive to invest in terror against Israel and their own people. This video we're watching was made by Hamas themselves, and it shows them stealing water pipes in Gaza and using them to produce missiles. And some of them were launched against Israel this past week. Hamas doesn't fight for the good of the Palestinian people. On the contrary, they are the main cause of suffering inside the Gaza Strip and a major obstacle in the peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. Hamas doesn't fight for the creation of a Palestinian state. Instead, they fight for the destruction of the State of Israel. Because the Palestinian ideology, the ideology of Hamas, is very similar to that of Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, the Islamic State. They fight for the establishment of a great caliphate, an Islamic state throughout the entire region. But let's hear this directly from them. I want to read to you now an excerpt from Hamas's own charter, which they still use to this day. You are Palestinians, the best nation to have arisen on the face of the earth. You do good, forbid evil, and believe in Allah. If only the people of the book, Jews and Christians, had believed, it would have been better for them. Some of them believe, but most of them are unjust. They will never be able to cause us serious harm and will only be a nuisance. If they attack you, they will end up turning their backs and fleeing, and they will not be helped. Humiliation is their fate. Where could they be found? The hour of judgment will not come until the Muslims fight the Jews and end up killing them. And even if the Jews take shelter behind trees and stones, every tree and stone will cry out, "O Muslims, O servants of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him." There is no solution to the Palestinian problem except through jihad, holy war. Peace initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are useless, a waste of time and a farce. As we have heard, Hamas has no interest in peace or in the well-being of the Palestinian people, especially the Palestinian Christians. We can't mix the Palestinian cause with Hamas's terrorism. Together we can defeat terrorism. For the sake of the Palestinian and Israeli people, let's pray together for peace and for all the innocent victims of this terrible conflict. Shalom.